Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 38 titled Friend adapts just over 4.5 chapters worth of manga material, with some anime exclusive visuals and a couple of anime only scenes included. This latest episode backtracks slightly from last week's episode, which ended with content from chapter 654, as material for this episode is adapted from chapters 630 to 634. This episode begins with a flashback sequence from chapter 631, with the first half of the episode adapting up to the end of chapter 632, where Yhwach appears before a young Hashward, revealing that he knows his name. The second half of the episode adapts from chapter 630 up to the end of chapter 634, where Bazb is defeated by Hashward. There is quite a lot to discuss for this manga versus anime video, as we have several new visuals and a couple of new scenes to break down. Be sure to stick around until the very end of the video, as I'll be comparing how faithfully the anime adapts the Bazb and Hashward flashback scenes, as well as how the battle between them was handled in the present day. And I'll also be going over what we can expect for the Core 3 finale. Lastly, I'll be refraining from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adaptations from the manga, and will be solely focusing on what has been cut, changed and added to the anime. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Hollow Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. So the episode begins by adapting material from pages 3 to 5 of chapter 631, and this is a very brief flashback sequence where we see Bazb and Hashward meet for the very first time. After they introduce each other, we then cut to the opening song. Following the opening, we have material from page 8 of chapter 630 adapted. This was previously adapted as a post-credit scene at the end of episode 36, but they have shown this here again in order to reintroduce us to the setting of Bazb versus Hashward. So the rest of chapter 630 is adapted, aside from this panel of young Bazb witnessing the burning down of his family castle, as this is saved for later in the episode. We then have the first 2 pages of chapter 631 adapted, as we pick up from the very beginning of the episode of that flashback from chapter 631, as pages 6 to 17 are then adapted. As we see Hashward and Bazb introduce themselves to each other, we then see Hashward's uncle being introduced into the story, where he says that he is in trouble for having gone so deep into the forest on his own. Everything remains to be very faithfully adapted, as we then cut to Bazb activating Burner Finger 3, and then this final page of chapter 631 is adapted within the anime, but it is expanded upon with an all-new anime exclusive scene where Bazb witnesses the fall of his family castle. We see several different Quincy accompany Yhwach during this scene, like Zedritz and Hubert, and we even see that Quincy girl who was wielding that gun in the flashback scene at the beginning of episode 24 make an appearance here. So this anime exclusive flashback scene serves to reveal to us how Yhwach was conquering over different Quincy territory before he had planned to take over the Soul Society. So page 13 of chapter 631 is heavily expanded upon with the anime, as we get all new visuals accompanying this internal dialogue which Bazb states within the manga. We see how the two of them had lived off of coins that they had found from Bazb's fallen castle, and how they had joined forces to kill Yhwach. Now after this, we do get another anime exclusive scene, and it's where Hashward and Bazb are camping as they speak with one another, as Hashward tells Bazb that he isn't confident in his own abilities, as he states that he cannot collect reishi and he can't even make a bow. Bazb reassures him, stating that he is with him, explaining that their revenge against Yhwach is for both of their sake. He tells young Hashward that he is going to teach him how to make a bow, stating that he will be able to use his powers in no time at all. The rest of chapter 631 is adapted up until the end, where Yhwach states his desire to take over the Soul Society, as he will need to create a new military division called the Sternritter. Content from the beginning of chapter 632 is adapted then, as the chapter begins with more monologue from Bazb, as he explains how the two of them had spent their time training over the 5 years. This monologuing is accompanied by additional visuals in the anime, which help us to just better understand what was going on in those 5 years. Like there are shots of Bazb taking down a wild boar. We see Hashward then training intensely in a snowy setting, as it further emphasizes just just how hard Hashward was trying. The anime then adapts content all the way up until the end of chapter 632, and this is up until the point where Yhwach appears in front of Hashward stating that he knows his name as he tells him that he is his other half. We then cut to the mid-card of the episode, and the first mid-card is centered around Bazb as it explains that he was born into the Black family, a feudal lord of a certain region, as Baz had grown up in a castle with no restriction. From a very young age, he possessed an extraordinary talent as a Quincy, being able to create a holy bow. After meeting Hashward half a year later, his castle was burned down by Yhwach, thus leading to Bazb to focus on honing his own power so that he can take revenge against Yhwach. But when he had learnt about the formation of the Sternritter and he had met Yhwach, he had become angered when he was overlooked by the leader of the Quincy. Now while later Bazb did become one of the Holy Knights of the Sternritter, in the past he had taken the opportunity to rebel against Yhwach, desiring to take revenge against him. And yeah, at the end of the mid-card it states that Bazb's shrift is the letter H for the heat. The second mid-card is focused on Hashward as it explains that he is a boy who grew up in the forest alongside his uncle in a repressed environment. Without any special talent as a Quincy, he used an ordinary bow and arrow to hunt for food. Half a year after meeting Baz, the forest that he had lived in was burnt down by Yhwach, leading him to dedicate himself to refining his own ability. After he had learnt about the formation of the Sternritter, he had met Yhwach, who had welcomed him as his long sought after other half. He had then become a commander of the Sternritter as Hashward serves faithfully under Yhwach, with his shrift being the letter B for the balance. So following this, we have chapter 633 adapted, revealing how Hashward had ended up joining Yhwach and leaving Bazb behind. Material from the end of chapter 633 is incredibly adapted into the anime as we cut back from the scene where young Bazb had fired an arrow at Yhwach, with young Hashward having caught it, and this transitions into the present day where Hashward catches an arrow fired by Bazb, as content from chapter 633 ends after Hashward cuts Bazb and sends him flying back. Now then, towards the end of the episode, we have material from chapter 634 which is adapted. This shows the final section of Hashward vs Bazb as we have one last flashback sequence which takes place 3 years after Hashward had joined Yhwach. At this point, Hashward has become a commander within Yhwach's army and Bazb had just enlisted into the Sternritter. Now the material from page 9 of chapter 634 is expanded upon within the anime with some all new visuals which accompany a lot of Bazb's inner monologuing, where he explains how Hashward was the commander and how he had continued to ignore all of his challenges no matter how many times that he had taunted him. So then the rest of the episode adapts all the way up until page 17 of chapter 634, and this is where Bazb is finally defeated as he falls to the ground. Now the anime does have some dialogue here which links back to the beginning of the episode, during that time where Bazb and Hashward had first met, as we hear dialogue from young Bazb telling Hashward that it'll teach him everything that he needs to know in order to become stronger. Then there is no post-credit scene for this week's episode, as episode 39 is revealed to be titled The Visible Answer, and this is named after chapter 660. The poem teasing episode 39 is by Hashward and it's taken from volume 70. It's where he states that there is no pain as long as I keep my eyes on the balance scale. So next week, episodes 39 and 40 will be releasing on the same day on the 28th of December as a 1-hour special, and following the release of episode 38 we had a look back PV which recaps the events of episodes 25 to 38 as this leads into the finale of Core 3. It teases that the finale of Core 3 is going to be focusing on Gerard Valkyrie versus the Shinigami, as well as seeing Ichigo, Orihime and Chad battle against Askin as they suffer from reishi poisoning, as Yoruichi takes over the battle, thus allowing Ichigo and the others to press forward as they eventually encounter Uryu. So it does seem like the finale of Core 3 is building up towards a final round between Ichigo and Uryu, as Hashward is also going to be intervening, because if the episode is titled The Visible Answer, then it's going to involve Hashward questioning Uryu about his loyalty to Yhwach and to prove that he isn't a traitor, as he orders Uryu to kill Ichigo and his friends. I'm really looking forward to seeing the early portions of the fight against Askin being adapted. Hopefully we get to see some of Yoruichi versus Askin and the battle against Gerard, where he introduces elements of his Shrift ability, the Miracle. And also, I'm looking forward to seeing this anime exclusive fight between Ichigo and Uryu in the finale of Core 3, and in some recent comments that Kubo had made on a TikTok live earlier this week, he had stated that Core 4 was actually going to feature entire episodes which were made up of all new material that fans who have read the manga have never seen before. He had commented that fans will be shocked and state that they have never seen this before when they watch certain episodes. Let's just theoretically say that Core 3 ends and it adapts all the way up until the end of chapter 660, which is the title of episode 39. This leaves us with 26 chapters of manga content for Core 4. There is going to have to be a lot of new additions to pad out Core 4 to 13 episodes, because when the anime for the 1000 Year Blood War arc was first announced, they had said that it was going to be 4 cores of 13 episodes each. Because the Core 2 finale had production issues, it resulted in Core 3 having 14 episodes. I don't think that this changes anything for Core 4, which I believe will still have 13 episodes. There are going to be a lot of additions made to the battle against Gerard and Urahara vs Askin, and not to forget the final fight against Yhwach. Before Kubo started the 1000 Year Blood War arc, he had teased via the repeat and reboot segments in Shonen Jump that for the final arc he had wanted to reveal the backstory of Urahara and Yoruichi, as well as new details about Rangiku, and he had wanted to show us a flashback of how Rukia had become a lieutenant. I think that there is an opportunity for all of these to be included into Core 4, especially the flashback showing how Rukia became a lieutenant, since we haven't seen Ukitake collapse to the ground yet. So I have gotten slightly carried away here speculating about the Core 3 finale and the future of the anime, but we have now reached the point of the video where I do want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What did you think about episode 38 of the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime? Are you happy with how the Bazb and Hashward backstory was handled in the anime? Did you enjoy seeing their intense battle in the present day, as well as Bazb showcasing his burner finger abilities? Did you like the visual additions that were made which expanded upon the internal monologuing of Bazb in the manga? And did you enjoy seeing those 2 anime exclusive scenes, the first of Bazb witnessing the fall of his home, and the second of young Hashward and Bazb at the campfire? I look forward to reading all of your thoughts in the comments, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel because I will be back next week for my review and manga vs anime breakdown of the Core 3 finale, which includes episode 39, The Visible Answer.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.